So as you guys can see, I'm pretty stacked in Grow Garden thanks to all my viewers. I mean, we literally have the world record for the most shekels transferred in one trade. And it really makes me sad that we're reacting to the tragic downfall of Grow Garden. And at that time, Grow Garden was the #1 game on Roblox and the #1 game in the entire world with the most concurrent players, with 25 million players playing at the same time. And now they've dropped down to 394,000 players, which is still amazing. I think that's a dream for many games out there on Roblox. Some say it's because people are going back to school, but there's no reason why 20 million people have just disappeared.
The simple farm game that broke record after record and became the most played game in the whole planet, surpassing even Fortnite by a massive difference of concurrent players, reaching its peak record of over 22 million players, averaging more than 2 million per day, has already lost more than half of its players, with even its own main developer Jandelle looking for ways to revive Grow Garden. And in this video, you will see all the reasons and the bad decisions that were made.
I gotta say, the editing on this video is crazy.
Mainly regarding the inflation of the shekels currency and the absurd duplication exploits that completely cooked the game's economy. And that is exactly what brings us to the first point of this decline. When the amount of money skyrockets within an economy, it loses the value you once had, making the price of everything rise and become more expensive to match the low value of the currency.
Isn't that what's happening in real life right now?
Of new players, since everything will be expensive for them and their money will be worth less, while the players who already had sextillions don't even feel this. Several reasons led to the extreme inflation of shekels in Grow Garden,
by the way.
But the main one was definitely the addition of the most beloved and iconic pet in the game, the raccoon. Its ability to duplicate plants infinitely worked like a shekel sprinter, and several people in private servers would even rent their gardens with a single plant of absurd value, like a candy or a bone blossom, or even the 700 trillion honeysuckles, for you to spend hours duplicating those plants with your raccoon. So imagine the amount of new and even old players frustrated after spending weeks or months grinding the game honestly to reach 100 trillion shekels, while another player spends 4 hours duplicating quadrillions of shekels for a rented plant in a private server, injecting huge amounts of money into the economy and making the devs choose to increase the price of all items in an attempt to keep up with the mountain of shekels that player had duplicated, inflating the game's economy and devaluing its own currency. But in doing so, you punish those players who play the game honestly and make them lose the will and excitement of the grind, since until you have a good amount of shekels, they won't be worth anything anymore thanks to the inflation. And you also kill the interest of new players. It's not
because it feels like a lot of people are so far ahead,
it's completely poorly balanced and executed. A simple solution that would have helped with this issue and was suggested by the community was simply adding a nerf to the raccoon's ability, one that made it possible to duplicate each plant only once, avoiding the cloning of those plants with absurd values in an unlimited and broken way.
That is a good idea, but
failed to fix this gigantic problem for the economy while there was still time. They
that would kind of get rid of
another pet with the same duplication ability as the raccoon, the kitsunes. I don't know. And along with them also came the biggest backlash involving the game's microtransactions up to that point, and many associated this episode with Grow Garden's involvement, specifically Jandelle's, with the most destructive company known in Roblox. DoBig Studios, known by many as the Reaper of Games, as everyone already knows, is a company with a history and a certain connection to Jandelle that buys games with extreme potential and takes over everything from marketing to development, investing heavily. All that just to turn the game into the most pay-to-win casino known in the history of man.
Okay, it's not necessarily a bad thing to take a broken game and like revive it. Like if you see the potential and you already have the keys to make a game successful, you would do it, right? But turning it into like a whole pay-to-win casino and like gambling, like promoting gambling, that's what I didn't really like mesh well with. Like I felt kind of guilty just opening up these mystery boxes. Like sure, mystery boxes, they're fun to open, all right, but there comes to a point where it's like it becomes an addiction rather than just, you know, opening mystery boxes here and there for fun to get these like super rare things. Sometimes for a lot of people, they get too carried away.
Right. It acquired games like a Blade Ball, a Dusty Trap, which was initially bought by Jandelle and after some time handed over to DoBig's development. Apparently after Jandelle received hate for making the game too pay to win.
Basically, the game died after he sold it to DoBig Games, huh?
The Great Fish, and eventually a part of Grow a Garden together with...
Wait, so does DoBig Games own Steel Brainrot too? Oh, part of Steel the Brainrot. Okay.
Brainrot, The Great Fish, and eventually...
These are all really big games too, so there has to be a reason why DoBig Studios has the ability to acquire them. I mean, maybe they're offering a lot of money to the developers and the developers are like, you know, this would really help us out with investing more into the game or something like that. Because there has to be a reason why they're so successful in acquiring the games, you know, hence all the backlash that people are talking about, you know, like all the negative connotation that comes with DoBig
part
Studios.
Of Grow a Garden, together with Jandelle. And the kitsune was the first prismatic pet in the game, and up until then the most OP, being an even more broken version of the raccoon. Because besides
so
also
cool, guys,
duplicating
I'm
plants,
not
you
gonna
could
lie.
still apply a mutation with a 100.
Shout out to everyone who hooked me up with the kitsune.
Insane.
You guys are awesome.
The problem
man.
was that all
the
the
Rage
best
Nation
pets by default
undefeated.
had a 1% chance
Appreciate
of
you
being
guys.
obtained, which was already extremely low. But the kitsune came with a ridiculously absurd and unbelievable chance of only 0.08%. Not 0.8%, it was 0.08%. To give you one idea, at 1% chance you will need on average 100 attempts to get one.
It's
but
so
at
crazy, guys.
0.08% chance you will need on average 1,250 attempts.
But that's on
the
average
backlash
though,
from the
because some
community
people can
was
get super
astronomical
lucky
and instant
but
because of
still
this
pretty crazy.
absurd and even surprising scam. Since, of course, Grow a Garden already had its microtransactions, but until then, nothing on such a bizarre, out of this world,
0.08 is
level.
pretty
This resulted
insane.
in players wasting a lot of time grinding, trying to get a kitsune before the event ended, or players spending thousands and thousands of
What?
Robux also trying to get one and not even coming close because
I did
of this
spend thousands
almost
of Robux.
insignificant chance. It ended with Jandelle publicly apologizing on the Discord server for not respecting the community with this completely pay-to-win scam, giving players PTSD from the time when the combination of Jandelle plus DoBig ruined a dusty trip with infinite microtransactions. And to this day, many people believe that this was nothing more than a suggestion from DoBig Studios, since as an investor, they also have to make their profit somehow.
That's
but
true,
Jandelle
but
ended up backtracking after the huge backlash from the community, though the profit from this casino had already been made and the damage had already.
Yeah, I feel like if you try to backtrack now, all the people who already spent that money, they're gonna feel like it's unfair, you know? It's like, oh, I already spent so much money on like trying to get the kitsune. Now you're gonna backtrack and make it even like easier for the other people, even though I already spent a lot of money, you know?
There were 2 economy breaking pets circulating in the game, but even if you kept all the abilities of those pets that are extremely broken, it would be fine because they are extremely rare to get, right? No. Grow a Garden also suffered from another problem that turned out to be even bigger and more harmful than the duplication of infinite shackles using the unlimited abilities, exploits of the kitsune and the raccoon. The duplication of the kitsunes and raccoons themselves.
That's
Thousands
crazy.
of them were duplicated using a...
No wonder when I got like a crazy trade in Grow a Garden, a lot of people were telling me that it was like duped money and possibly getting banned and stuff
at the time, which ended up making them being distributed and sold in bulk to other players who use those 2 clone pets.
Who knows if I have any kitsunes that are duped?
Plans from
it's possible.
Private service and keep
I don't know how to tell, but maybe if you guys
the game. The most impressive part is that this turned into an extremely profitable business for the duplicators of those pets, since thousands of them were sold on big platforms like the famous eBay. And many of them were sold. Many.
That's crazy.
Once again, this could have been easily avoided with the implementation of a unique code identification system for each in-game item. This would make each item in the game have a kind of unique tag code. And then, as soon as the system detected that something was duplicated,
that
and
makes
there
a
were
lot of
two
sense
identical items with the exactly same code, it would easily flag this duplicated item.
So if you
making the
duplicate
detection
something, it
easier,
doesn't
but
create like a
this
brand
was
new
not done in
code,
time. And
tag
to try
code.
to fix this non-stop duplication, the devs completely disabled the possibility of gifting pets.
Yeah, I appreciate the devs actually like
time,
working on this, you know, and like
frustrated about it because
paying attention to the community
had always been one of the core mechanics of the game, until finally they fixed the glitch and reactivated pet trading again, but the damage had already been done once more, and this time infinitely duplicated.
Yikes.
Literally. And when the economy was already completely cooked, a popular system was implemented that has a few different names depending on the game. The most famous one.
But if you think about it though, like
Rebirth,
the economy was already messed up by the time the game was at its
peak. The system is
so
used in
it's not entirely the reason
where the progression stall after players accumulate too much of the game's unique currency over time, leaving the numbers absurd and creating a huge economic gap between new and old players. So the games implement the system, creating a new layer in the economy.
You can
with
tell
a new currency,
the person making this video right now, what is their name?
And the players obtain this new currency by trading.
Oh no, what no, where am I?
The games implement the system.
This is their first video, guys. Shout out to Bhow.
And the players obtain this new currency by trading the old one for it, resetting their current progress. But besides receiving a good amount of new coins in exchange, since they had many old coins, they also receive buffs or other permanent things in the game, making them not feel like they lost their fortunes for nothing. And Grogarden tried this with Ascension, but it was a complete
basically
disaster.
like Rebirth,
Many players didn't even know what the
Technically.
so-called reset system was about, and the interface of Ascension didn't help at all. Yes, it was written that the player would lose
You will
all
get
their
one
shackles for
garden
just
coin.
one new coin.
What?
But below in the requirements, there was a
You would lose all your shekels just for one garden coin? That's crazy.
fixed number at 1 trillion.
That is crazy.
And many people
I would be
thought
so
that
angry
this
if
was
I
the
didn't
number
read
of
that in
shekels you would
Ascended.
lose when ascending, but that was actually just the minimum shekels requirement needed to ascend. This resulted in thousands of players instantly deleting all the shekels they had.
That's
and
crazy.
regardless of how many shekels
Like,
it was,
you should
they
only
would
take
still
the amount that's
only get
required
one
to Rebirth, you know?
new coin. And because this wasn't clear for many players, this was exactly what caused the biggest drop in player count in the game up to that point, purely out of frustration for having lost all their shekels for basically nothing. They felt like they had lost everything they had achieved up to that point, and also they felt tricked. Later, this was adjusted, making it fairer and easier to understand, giving 10 new coins for just 1 trillion shekels, and not everything you had for just one coin like before. But by then, it was already too late.
Yeah.
Many people had lost.
Man, it sucks because it's like the damage keeps getting done every single time. So like the people that got affected by this, they're gonna be so frustrated and may lead to them quitting the game,
leading to the biggest drop in player in the game so far. Even a poll ended up being made by Jandelle on Discord
remove
between
ascension,
modifying the requirements or just removing the ascension mechanic entirely, which was clearly winning, by the way. But it could not be done without creating another problem, because simply removing it would harm a lot of people who were farming this new currency, making all their work useless.
They're gonna be like,
so
I lost all these shekels just to
remove the whole mechanic. That's why, to compensate, Jandelle promised good rewards for those who had lost all their shekels in this poorly made ascension. But by then, it had already caused a lot of damage in the community again.
Why are you guys causing so much damage to the community?
Topic, I just want to say that this is the channel's first video, and it would mean a lot to us if you subscribe.
Shout out to Bhow for making some crazy bangers already.
This video here.
This is a really good video for their first video.
Jandelle has always been the main figure of Grow a Garden, frequently posting on his TikTok, often interacting on his Discord server, was also 90% of the times the main character of the admin abuses. And in general, in everyone's view, he was a cool guy with strong principles, hate-proof, and also the developer and fully owner of our favorite game. But not even he he
portfolio owner,
escaped, the
unfortunately.
apparently inevitable exposed that sooner or later always ends up happening. Several users on X and even huge YouTubers like Parlo took part in this expose of Jandelle.
What?
Well, in fact, it's more about someone Jandelle has in his close circle. Adrian, known as BMWLux, the original creator of Grow Garden. To give context, it all started with people digging up an old tweet from Jandelle in October 2024, saying that he would stop acquiring games and focus on his own projects, because he felt like he needed to prove to himself that he was capable of creating his own top-tier games without needing to buy games from other developers, just to continue and fix them, and that this practice of buying games was starting to get too toxic for him to be part of.
Oh, so it's like, oh, you went back on your word and still bought a game the next year. But come on, guys, like, okay, it's his fault for even tweeting that, but like, you know, I'm sure he felt a certain way at that time. But come on, he made he made Grow Garden what it is today. You got to give him some credit there. It's not like...
However, a few months later, in April 2025, Jandelle would break his own word by buying his share of Grow Garden from the original creator, BMWLux, which already made many people doubt Jandelle's character and word after seeing this post.
I get it though.
This even generated repercussion at the Roblox Innovation Awards, when the host, Jay Party, asked Jandelle the following question.
So Jandelle, as a professional maker of subpar games, would you say your parents are extremely or moderately disappointed in you?
Moderately?
I'd have to agree. You won't see a shrink about that. Anyway.
And of course, it was a joke. But that didn't stop the public opinion reaction in saying that this was actually a fact. And others like this saying, well, it's not like Jandelle even makes his own games.
Dude, like,
or
sure,
this one
he
saying,
buys the
calling
foundation
him creator
and then
is
just makes
crazy,
it,
considering he
like,
bought his way to
right?
success. The second part of this exposed came from the fact that Jandelle doesn't own 100% of the game, and that 50% of Grow Garden still belongs to BMWLux, very possibly making him the partner with the largest percentage of the game, since the other 50% is divided between Jandelle's company and also DoBig Studios. But BMWLux also had his own exposed, being unmasked as a doxer, scammer, false DMCA abuser, and leaker of other people's games for years, with multiple proofs showing how pathetic and in bad faith Adrian behaved in the developer circle. And then you probably ask me, but what does this have to do with Jandelle? He doesn't go along with any of that. He just bought the game from Adrian. It's just business. And I would even agree with you if it weren't for the multiple messages from Jandelle defending Adrian, where he tried to soften the extensive pattern of disgusting actions from Adrian over several years, both as a game developer and also as a human being, and always hammering the argument that everyone makes mistakes when they are young. And Adrian was young at the time and still is. And by the way, he was 16 when he created Grow Garden. And also saying that he's a good kid who is committed to correcting his mistakes and becoming a trustworthy figure in the community. Even though Adrian never publicly apologized nor compensated his mistakes with all the people who showed proof of the despicable actions he committed against them. This was a clear attempt by Jandelle to soften and clean up the image of his partner. Because how could you not defend and maintain a good relationship with someone who holds 50% of your most profitable business? As business partners, they need to have a good relationship with each other. But Adrian's actions were not just small mistakes like Jandelle made them seem. Among the many things Adrian did, there were episodes like stealing all the revenue of a developer he agreed to do a 50-50 split partnership with, and even doxing this developer by threatening to leak his address, house photos, and personal information.
Man, this is some crazy stuff, man, but like,
he also took down
I would assume like the average player of Grow Garden does not care about any of this, but you know, it is unfortunate to see all this behind the scenes, I guess.
Claims, bringing down the original game and creating a copy of the game and stealing the entire audience, and much more. And this went on for multiple years with several other developers that he also screwed over. And Jandelle, who is also a developer, just like all of Adrian's victims, defending this kind of person with shallow excuse that he was too young and we all make mistakes when we are young, as if that justified it, downplaying the seriousness of these actions and saying that he is committed to correcting his mistakes, And many of you may not even know, but the official Grow Garden Discord server was just as active as the
That's
game
crazy.
itself.
6
It
million
had
members?
several interaction
Oh my
channels, chaotic voice chats.
I know Steel
among
Brainrot
many
also
other
has a
things, but
crazy
the best
community
one,
too.
without a doubt, was a suggestion
That
channel,
is so
where
crazy.
players gave their improvement suggestions, opinions on topics and updates, several different solutions from the community for the problems
Stop
of
nerfing
inflation,
things without
duplication
telling
of
us
items and pets,
exactly.
scam methods, and even the rework
I think
of
like
poorly
transparency
introduced
is what
mechanics,
the viewers
like the
and like
very
the community
poorly
wanted.
planned ascension system, which was rushed in an attempt to solve the problem of inflation in the economy and ended up creating an even bigger problem than it, and a lot of other options from the passionate community that breathed Grow a Garden and only wanted to see the gaming.
You know, I feel like if they did implement some of these things, like more player or like more of the player base would have been a lot more happy.
And with the honeysuckle, giving life to 700 trillion shekel plants that were being duplicated non-stop by duplicated kitsunes and raccoons, inflating the game's economy. They also gave feedback about the unfairness of certain updates being too hard to complete or too tedious and boring, and that this discouraged players who would not longer be interested in seeing the next ones. But how can a game that updates every week, always with new content, be boring? It doesn't make sense, right? Well, it does. When the game was fresh, the devs definitely had several update ideas ready to be put into the game. But the idea of making a brand new update every week from
that
scratch,
is really strange
changing
too.
almost everything in the game with a completely different aesthetic and interesting mechanics,
A lot of
would
people
not
can't keep
be
up too.
sustainable for long. Not to mention the fact that it would always leave the players with very high expectations for
Yeah.
these extremely
Because they're
frequent
expecting
updates.
more
In
every
the
single
first
time,
weeks,
you
the
know?
updates were always super new. And
Personally, guys, I feel like Steal a Brainrot versus Grow a Garden event like just ended everything. That felt like the peak for both games, and after that, people were like, you know, I think that's pretty much it,
added
right?
a lot of
There's
things,
nothing else.
mainly new mechanics that would later
Nothing
remain
else that you can
permanently
really
in the game, like
improve
pets,
upon
crafting,
the game anymore.
recipes.
If you guys want to check out the entirety of the video by itself, the link is down below to BHow's video. This is their first video apparently, and I think they made some great points. If you guys agree with these points as well, let me know down below in the comments. But personally, I agree with everything he basically said. But I don't think it led to the, you know, overall downfall. I can see how it all contributed to the player drop, but there's so many like casual Grow Garden players that don't really play the game as often and aren't really like involved with the community, and I felt like they just saw the game become super repetitive on its own instead of like seeing all this different stuff where, you know, they see all, you know, Jandelle being exposed and stuff. I doubt they care about that, like the average Grow Garden player, but I can see how everything contributed to the downfall in comparison to their peak, you know. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. All right.